Unfortunately, I called 911 without even knowing she called 911 during her call.
Welcome to the Twisted Hour Tapes. I'm your host, Whitney, and here we deep dive into true crime's darkest cases. On tonight's episode, we are going to discuss the once viral Ronnie O'Neal Riverview murders. So, you may remember his highly aggressive opening statement that was floating all over social media a few years ago. And it was this guy who had this weird hairstyle, and he was accusing the legal system of tampering with the evidence of his trial to make it look like he was actually guilty. Now, I remember clicking on one of those videos, and there were people in the comments saying things like, "Yes, King, prove your innocence. Yes." Like this guy was the second coming of Malcolm X. To date, I really hope those comments were trolling because Ronnie committed one of the most horrific murders to come out of Tampa Bay, Florida in 2018. So it took me a little over a month to sort through everything in the autopsy reports. Quite frankly, it made me sick to my stomach. So, as always, we'll start with the backstory, walk through the crime scene, unpack the legal circus that followed, and we're going to look at the aftermath of the case. So if you're into true crime, please like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a new Twisted episode. Ronnie O'Neal was born on July 27th, 1988 in Florida to Lisa Smith and Alonzo Fritz McNear. He also has a brother named Alonzo Kelly. It said Ronnie grew up in a rough environment and didn't meet his biological father until adulthood. So instead, he was raised by his stepfather, Billy Smith, with whom it said he had a pretty decent relationship with. So the family was known to regularly attend church, and Ronnie sang in the choir, something that really helped to nurture his love for music. But tragically, when Ronnie was around 5 years old, he and his brother Alonzo were sexually assaulted by three teenage relatives and their friends who were supposed to be watching them. Now, the details on it is extremely graphic. It's disturbing because there was something mentioned about sodomy. So that's as far as I'm going to go into it with that. The boys, it was said they told their grandmother, and while police were contacted, nothing ever came out of it. Now, there are two conflicting statements on this. One source said Ronnie never received counseling, while another source said he did and he was placed on meds. Regardless, this traumatic incident forever haunted Ronnie. In school, Ronnie seemed like a popular kid. Well, I'm not a popular kid, excuse me, a regular kid, and he stayed pretty local. So he went to East Bay High in Gibsonton, Florida, where he played football and he stayed active. After graduation, he joined ROTC, which is a college program meant to prepare students for military leadership. Unfortunately, Ronnie would never make the cut. So he attempted to join the Marines, but it was reported that he failed the entrance exam several times. By adulthood, Ronnie drifted from job to job. He worked at a gaming house, became a truck driver, and he began to lean harder into his music career. So he started like writing and performing as part of a hip hop duo. Around 2007, that's when Ronnie met Kenyatta Barron at a party. Now, I wanted to know what qualities drew Kenyatta to Ronnie, whether he had any redeeming qualities at all, but unfortunately, I couldn't find anything definitive. The most I could find is that Kenyatta Kenyatta's family never liked him, and they felt like he was a really bad influence on her. Kenyatta Barron was born on November 13th, 1984, in Hillsborough County, Florida, to Booker T. Ray and Carrie Barron. She attended local schools all the way through college. She loved God, loved to learn, loved to cook, and wrote poetry. By all accounts, Kenyatta had a humble spirit, deep empathy, and a big heart for people in need. At some point in her relationship with Ronnie, it got serious between those two and they moved in together. By 2009, they welcomed their first child, a beautiful, bouncing baby girl named Renivia. But Renivia's entry into the world came with major challenges. She was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy and autism. She was nonverbal, used sign language to communicate, and sometimes required a wheelchair. Still, Kenyatta made sure her daughter knew she was loved. She treated Renivia like a princess, attentive, involved, and determined to give her a joyful life despite her medical needs. In 2010, Ronnie joined an outreach group called Build Your Community, or BYC. The group mentored kids in under-resourced neighborhoods, teaching hygiene, boxing, and promoting peace. That's where Ronnie met Jihad Muhammad, a leader in the group who became a major influence on him. Ronnie, who had been raised Christian, developed a deep interest in Islam. He began studying religion, attending self-improvement classes, and getting more involved in the community service. So for the first time, it seemed like Ronnie found his purpose. He took pride in BYC's mission. In 2011, Ronnie and Kenyatta had their second child, a bouncing baby boy named Ronnie O'Neal IV, better known as Little Ronnie. Now, I'll continue referring to him as Little Ronnie so there's no confusion between the father and the son's name. But not long after Little Ronnie's birth, the relationship between Kenyatta and Ronnie, it just started to fall apart. Friends would go on to describe their relationship as rocky. So they were kind of like one of those couples that was on again, off again, on again type thing. So by 2016, they officially split and started living apart. Kenyatta's friends also mentioned like the breakup was triggered to like infidelity and Ronnie's controlling, unpredictable behavior. And again, I did find some reports that stated that there was like some domestic disputes between them where there was an incident of like, car windows getting smashed. It's a tough one. That same year, Ronnie had a son with another woman. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I believe it's Isha Robinson. There's not much public information about her child or Isha. So in October 2017, Ronnie was shot during a drive-by while attending a BYC event in the Robles Park area of Tampa. His injuries were so severe that it would take months for him to recover. During that time, none of Ronnie's family offered to take him in, and I mean none, not even Isha, the mother of his other child. But despite their rocky past and strong objections from her own mother, Kenyatta opened up her home to him. Again, she was always this humble spirit who just wanted to help people in need. And she let Ronnie stay with her and the kids so he'd have a place to rest and heal. Sadly, Ronnie would take advantage of that kindness. It was said that there was tension in the home, like tension began to build in the home. They argued often. Some say Ronnie tried to convert Kenyatta and the kids to Islam. Other times, the fights were about Isha Robinson. Then came the night of March 18th, 2018. Sometime after 11:30 p.m., little Ronnie was in his bedroom when he overheard his parents arguing again. But this time, it was completely different. From where he stood, he saw his father holding a shotgun, one that was normally kept hidden under the master bed. Terrified, Kenyatta ran into Renivia's bedroom and hid inside the closet. Ronnie followed her, raised the shotgun, and fired, striking Kenyatta in the arm through the closet door. Wounded, but still alive, Kenyatta stumbled out, ran past Ronnie, and out the front door. She was wearing only a tank top, socks, and underwear. With her cell phone in hand, she dialed 911 and pounded on a neighbor's door for help.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm shot. Help me. I'm shot. Help me, please. Jesus, help me. I'm shot.
Okay, what's the address of the emergency, ma'am? What's the address of your
I'm
emergency?
shot. Help me, please.
What's your address? What's your address, ma'am?
Shot me. Help me, please. He shot me.
Where?
Hello, what's up?
Ma'am, hello? Ma'am. Ma'am, hello? Hello?
Right now, come out here and help me kill this bitch. Now!
The call came in at exactly 11:43 p.m. Her voice was cracking under the weight of pure shock. I'm shot. Help me, please. He's attacking me. She cried out again and again. Then another gunshot. A blood-curdling scream could be heard on the other line. In the background, Ronnie could be heard yelling to his son, "Come outside and help me kill this bitch." Moments later, the line went dead. It was reported that Ronnie beat her with the shotgun until it broke in 3 separate places. According to the autopsy report, Kenyatta suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to her right elbow, where pellets were recovered, and another to her shoulder. But those weren't the fatal injuries. What killed her was the beating that followed. Over 15 separate lacerations to the head, multiple abrasions and contusions, a broken right arm, a shattered jaw, a skull fracture in 6 or 7 different places. Several of her teeth were knocked out and found scattered in the grass nearby. The official cause of death was blunt impact trauma to the head, leading to massive brain hemorrhaging. At 11:51 p.m., just minutes after the brutal attack, Ronnie finally called 911. In that call, he spiraled into a bizarre rant. He claimed he was being attacked by white demons, and someone named Kiki tried to kill him, and then almost casually confessed, "I just killed her," and proceeded to give the dispatcher his address.
911, what is your emergency?
Hey, I just been attacked by some fucking white demons inside, and she tried to fucking kill me, and
What's the
I just
address?
killed her stupid ass. Huh?
What's the address of the emergency? Try to attack you?
Yes. She did. She tried to kill me.
Meanwhile, back in the house, after multiple neighbors already witnessed the horrific assault, Ronnie wasn't done. He turned his attention to his then 9-year-old autistic daughter, Renivia. He dragged her into the master bedroom and struck her in the head with a hatchet. Little Ronnie, watching in pure horror, later described the moment her eyes rolled back as blood began pouring from her head. Ronnie didn't stop. He continued the attack until her spinal cord was completely severed. According to her autopsy report, Renivia suffered the following: multiple chop wounds to her head, neck, back, chest, torso, and right foot. One stab wound to her back that went more than 2 inches deep. And a completely severed spinal cord. Once she was dead, Ronnie poured gasoline throughout the house. He lit a tissue on fire, dropped it on her body, and set the room on fire. He then turned to his son. He dragged little Ronnie into the garage, forced him to lie face down, and held him down with his foot while trying to light him on fire. But somehow, little Ronnie managed to break free. He ran to the kitchen, desperate to escape. Ronnie chased him down and stabbed him repeatedly in the chest, neck, face, arms, and legs. By the time first responders arrived, the scene was pure chaos. Flames were tearing through the house. Smoke poured from every window. The floors were slick with blood. Firefighters forced their way inside and found the charred body of Renivia. But it was already too late. Then, through the thick smoke, they saw something moving. It was little Ronnie. He was staggering through the haze, intestines slipping from his torso. Burns covered more than 20% of his body. His skin was still smoking. He collapsed in the arms of a first responder and whispered, "My father shot my mother." Outside, officers found Ronnie in the garage. He was covered in blood, reeking of gasoline, and holding a gas can. He ignored police commands, resisted arrest, and had to be tasered into submission. It took several officers to bring him down. Once in the back of the squad car, Ronnie muttered, "She's the devil. The kids are the devil's kids." Next day, Ronnie O'Neal was booked into the Hillsborough County Jail. Here's what he was formally charged with: 2 counts of first-degree murder. So this was for the killing of Kenyatta Barron and Renivia O'Neal. Each charge carried the harshest possible penalty under Florida law, either the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. 1 count of attempted first-degree murder. So this one was for stabbing and trying to burn his son, little Ronnie. This also carried a life sentence, especially given the fact that the victim was a child. 1 count of first-degree arson. So this one was for setting the house on fire while his children were still inside. The charge carried up to 30 years on its own. 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. For the assaults of both children, each of those charges carried a maximum of 30 years, with a mandatory minimum of 9 years per count. And then there was 1 count of resisting arrest. So even if the prosecutors didn't pursue the death penalty, Ronnie was already staring down multiple life sentences stacked with decades of additional time. Little Ronnie was in the ICU fighting for his life. His recovery would be long, both physically and emotionally. He had survived multiple stab wounds, severe burns, and the trauma of watching his family destroyed. He was heavily medicated, drifting in and out of sleep. But during that time, something unexpected happened. Mike Blair, a homicide detective who responded to the scene the night of the murder, and his wife, Danielle, began visiting the hospital. They brought comfort to little Ronnie. They watched cartoons with him. They showed up consistently. Then, 5 months later, in August 2018, the guardian overseeing little Ronnie's case made a call. 2 foster placements had already failed, and he urgently needed a new home. That's when Mike Blair said, "Bring him to me." On November 25th, 2019, Ronnie O'Neal IV, little Ronnie, was officially adopted by the Blair family. They had 5 other kids, and just like that, he became part of a new family and even adopted the last name Blair. It was a rare moment of light after so much darkness. Now, I do want to clarify something. From what I could gather, the 2 failed foster placements were actually with family members who offered to take him in. But for reasons that aren't entirely clear, whether it was emotional, financial, or court-ordered, the situation didn't work out. Back on the legal side, Ronnie's case was moving slowly. A panel of 3 doctors ruled him incompetent to stand trial. Not once, but twice. He was transferred to a state hospital for treatment. Months passed before he was finally cleared competent to face the charges of the trial. And then he pulled a stunt that made everything even more surreal. After learning that his son survived the attack, Ronnie was a trifling motherfucker. He was trifling because he wrote a letter to the judge demanding that little Ronnie be barred from speaking to the detectives or from even testifying against him. He also went on this strange rant about how the media was covering his case unfairly. Like, sir, you brought this upon yourself. You did the things that you did. Life in June 2021, more than 3 years after the murders, when Ronnie O'Neal's trial finally began. And yes, he chose to represent himself. The last person I know to do this was Ted Bundy, but that's another conversation. This was a highly controversial decision for multiple reasons, because 1, Ronnie would now have the chance to personally cross-examine his own son, the same son he had stabbed and left for dead. That meant little Ronnie, now 11, would have to face the man who murdered his mother and father. Even before the trial started, Ronnie was strategizing, okay? I'm not saying it worked, but the man was strategizing. So during jury selection, he personally questioned the jurors on their stance to weed out anyone too sympathetic to child victims or too firm on the death penalty. Then came day 1, and Ronnie was with the shenanigans, okay? He was with the shits. He went full theatrics in court. He gave that aggressive, chaotic opening statement, yelling at the jurors in the courtroom. He was just yelling at the courtroom, not even just the jurors. And he had these wild allegations, claiming he was this victim of this big government legal conspiracy.
The evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof. Because originally, it wasn't enough. So we had to tamper with evidence.
I'm not going to play the entire thing. I'm actually going to link the video in the description so that you could check out the whole thing for yourself. But essentially, he made the following claims. He claimed that, again, this was government corruption. He believed that there was evidence tampering, specifically around the timing of the 911 phone calls, including the one that he allegedly made to his stepfather. Ronnie also claimed that this was self-defense. So he claimed Kenyatta was the one who attacked him and killed their daughter and tried to kill their son. He even went out of his way to discredit his own son, little Ronnie, now known as Ronnie Blair. And he tried to undermine his son's testimony, pointing out that he has documented learning disabilities, depression, and developmental delays, stemming from the trauma. Prosecution, on the other hand, they didn't have to work too hard. Ronnie had already handed them the case because the evidence was already overwhelming against Ronnie. His courtroom performance only made things worse, and the witnesses, they delivered very strong emotional blows that the jury could not ignore. So one first responder broke down on the stand, recounting the scene inside of the burning home, and he said he hugged a firefighter and started crying after finding Renivia's burned body. A couple of neighbors also testified too, including those who had seen Ronnie beat Kenyatta with the shotgun. It was also revealed that one neighbor called the police actually minutes before Kenyatta's own 911 call because they heard a loud domestic abuse coming from inside of the home. But the most powerful testimony came from one person, little Ronnie. He testified remotely through a secure feed. And while some of his answers were hesitant or conflicted, that didn't shake the jury. This was a boy who had been stabbed, burned, nearly killed, and now he had to face his father in court.
How you doing, Ronnie?
Good.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Did you see me shoot your mom?
No.
Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
1st, 2021, the jury deliberated for less than 5 hours before returning the verdict. Ronnie O'Neal III was found guilty on all counts. However, the jury recommended life imprisonment rather than the death penalty for 2 key reasons. 1, a unanimous decision is required. Not all of the jury members agreed with this decision. 2, there were concerns about Ronnie's mental health. And during the penalty phase, Judge Michelle Sisco would make the ultimate decision. So she would either agree with the recommendation of the jury or sentence Ronnie to death. Keep in mind that by this point of the trial, Ronnie had no choice but to let his appointed counsel step in on his behalf. Now, both families provided emotional testimonies. Kenyatta's mother, sister, and niece all gave heartfelt testimonies, each expressing how Ronnie's actions permanently broke them. More importantly, they were disappointed with the jury's decision and felt robbed of true justice. Members of O'Neal's family, including his mother and brother, testified about his troubled childhood and believed it influenced his actions. His biological father testified about his own struggles with mental illness. It was revealed that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, suggesting a potential genetic predisposition to mental health issues. Furthermore, It was revealed that while Ronnie was covering from his injuries from the incident, from the shooting incident, O'Neal was further traumatized when his mother told him she had attempted to abort him when she was pregnant. That was a real thing in the article. She really said that. She really said that. Okay. I was like, what? I'm not even trying to be funny. She really said that. Okay. You can't make it up. You cannot make it up. It was the weirdest thing I read. So her reasoning for saying that is because it was her way of trying to comfort Ronnie. She believed that by telling him that, it would further highlight, like, you have a purpose, you have a reason to be here. You know, if I didn't take you out and that incident didn't take you out, then you were meant to be here. I'm just saying what was there. I'm just saying what was there. So while they come to terms with his actions, essentially they begged for leniency. The 2021 Judge Michelle Sisco sentenced Ronnie O'Neal to 3 consecutive life sentences plus 90 years. She described the case as the worst she had seen in her 19-year career, highlighting the true abject cruelty of the crimes, particularly the murder of Renivia, who was unable to scream or escape due to her disabilities. Ronnie O'Neal is currently serving his life sentence at Blackwater River Correctional Facility in Milton, Santa Rosa County, Florida. He has since filed multiple appeals, all of which have been denied.
I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
Mr. O'Neal,
All right.
Listen, stop.
All right.
Listen to me.
I'm not
You're not going to raise your voice again.
I'm not going to raise my voice again. I'm not. Yes, ma'am.
You don't conduct
I
yourself.
understand, Your Honor.
Thank you.
But I will say, I'm sorry for your loss.